Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature, or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Wynn.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Bat Force Radio, the Batman and DC podcast with no limits. This week we are joined by Atizas in New York.
Blim.
Bat Force Tom in California.
Hi.
That was awesome. The Bat Force Times in New York. And I'm Robin Cross in Canada. And this week's guest is an award-winning artist and writer known as a co-creator of 30 Days of Night and for his work on titles like Gotham by Midnight, Fell, Wormwood, Star Wars, and Silent Hill. Most recently, he has been seen drubbing a foul plagiarist on social media. Welcome to the show, Ben Templesmith.
Oh, yes. Really? That got noticed a little bit?
Yep, I noticed it anyway. It's fun and it needs to happen.
Didn't it get here's the brutal honest truth.
Yeah.
The brutal honest truth. I'm never going to work for Marvel. I don't think I'll ever be working for them. They're not going to call me. But I'm not looking either, which is fantastic. So,
fuck them.
Yeah, I guess I could speak out when certain other people probably couldn't.
That's good. Yeah.
But either way,
it's refreshing.
I guess to explain it all, Tristan Jones, who's Australian, who I know, very nice guy, very talented, did a lot of Alien stuff with Dark Horse. Dark Horse then lost the license because obviously Disney owns Aliens and stuff now. And Disney, Disney / Marvel. It's Marvel, but Disney. Reprinting a lot of the Dark Horse stuff, including, I guess, probably some of Tristan's work. But then they wanted to slap an exclusive fancy cover by an artist and one of their artists on top. But it turns out all he did was take Tristan's work, bits of various pieces, and put it all together and claim it as his own. And not in a homage way, but in a, I can't really be bothered drawing this, so I'm just going to grab a piece of this on computer and slap that there and slap that there. And it's like, But the thing is, Tristan isn't working full-time in comics right now. He has to work a day job. And to have his work, and I think some of this was unpublished work, so it was work that Marvel gained access to, obviously legally. They own it. And to see his work like completely riffed that way, not riffed, but ripped, but and traced. It's like, that's not fair. I think Greg Land, superstar Greg Land apparently, probably should get some more flack for that because he's using other people's work instead of doing it. He's known for not photo referencing, but literally tracing photos. Because photo referencing, I've done that. Everyone does that to a degree, but you don't literally trace a photo like a porn image, which he's done, and you give it your own life. You give it your own spin. You don't just trace what's already there and then slap a mask on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
for anyone who's seen that cover, it is exact.
And it's a damn shame because Greg Land is not made for Aliens work or for like dark horror stuff. He is a very, very comic book artist. He is not, like, if you look at all the Dark Horse previous work, Aliens comics, which I recommend because some of them are good, they have like these awesome painted covers by really great people. So it's like you can get more mood in that. But the Marvel style is line work and then computer coloring, and it works sometimes, but not for that cover. Anyway. Man. And just disagree completely with that practice, and Marvel will probably hate me now if they didn't already. So
fuck them.
I've done a couple of things for Marvel, but not Marvel the comics side. So no, very nice. I have nothing bad against Marvel per se, except why does he keep getting work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
there are too many artists that
Tristan
are
knows
making
that,
their
so.
way doing that.
I just said Tristan got a lot of attention for that, at least for his tweet. So that was good.
Yeah.
Hopefully something good comes of it.
Yeah, so
Right.
everybody go follow Tristan online now too.
He goes by
Exactly.
wall meat, like wall, like smack into the wall, meat, like beat your meat, Jones on Twitter.
I
I'm
will
sorry, if
remember
this is
that.
child friendly. I apologize because meat is very tasty. Meat,
And
protein,
should not be beaten.
part of a healthy diet. You don't beat the meat.
You can't beat meat unless you're a vegan. Anyway, how are you? How's Ben?
Me?
Yeah,
You're asking how I've been?
yeah. How are you
Oh,
doing?
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Not many people. Not much has changed, honestly. I work from home, so the only thing that's changed is I don't see my friends much. I don't go out for coffee with my friends. So I go to the grocery store once a week for this year, and the most exciting thing I've done in person this year is get my hair cut once.
Wow.
Oh, I should be drinking. Well, I'm drinking. But I just sorry for the thing. I just saw people taking swigs of delicious alcohol or beverages. I just brushed my
Sorry
teeth
to
and then
hear.
opened a Red Bull, and that was a mistake.
Oof. Yeah, it might not be. Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, there's a couple of us. Sorry about that. We didn't mean to be bad influences over here. We're just trying to get in the mood, you know?
No, it's great.
Well,
but
that's
I'm working-
also why the topic of beating the meat came up, because you saw somebody's camera on there.
We're getting comfortable. We're getting to know each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's only a
I
matter
can
of
give
time.
you a real good
Handsome
crotch shot,
dudes,
right?
you know.
And I'm going to warn everybody, we're going to go silent on a regular basis because as we're talking, we're all watching Ben create some art here
Oh, yeah.
on the screen.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, sometimes we're just going to go quiet.
This is the first time we've actually gotten this treat, to be honest.
Really?
I
Well,
think
just got
so.
my camera set up this way because it's a crotch shot.
Bam.
Oh, that's good, dude.
I don't know if
That's a crutch that's not getting any work from Marvel.
I actually have my cameras set up for like streaming and YouTube things, but I don't know. Without getting off the call, I don't know how to swap them. I don't want to mess around with the cameras because it's on
This
the
is
wrong
cool.
camera.
We'll just describe what we're seeing because this.
You don't
yeah,
need to see
this is,
me.
No. We.
My room has
we'd rather
nothing
see
on the
this.
walls. My room has a couch behind me and some a closet because it's a small second bedroom. So it's very not exciting, and I look horrible. So there's that.
I really no, man. You look great.
Well, thank you. You hitting on me?
It's funny because
Yes.
Robin actually looks like a number of comic artists we know. You're one of them, which is so weird.
Wait,
So,
Robin looks like me.
Yeah, you guys
well,
kind of look similar.
what I get most commonly, I get told that I look like Tyler Kirkham, but I correct people.
Oh,
and
he's
tell them
handsome.
But that's the problem because
He's
I'm
like the
not.
Brad Pitt of comics, man.
The problem is I'm not, and what I correct people and tell them like, no, I look like Tyler Kirkham fucked Chip Zdarsky, and that's what I look like.
No
So
comment.
more accurate.
What he does in his spare time is his business.
and I'll add to that both of them are perfectly cool guys. And
Right.
yeah, whatever they choose to do is just fine.
So Ben, how did you? I mean, we're gonna get to what
You asked me
we eventually want to get to your amazing Patreon work and your stuff that you've been putting out. Your alien stuff, holy shit, looks amazing. The xenomorphs are amazing.
Well, thank you. That's actually part of the Patreon, but
Yeah, it's. I joined today because I've been meaning to.
Just saw that.
But yeah, I joined today. The aliens, fucking hey man, like I love your aliens so much. Your horror stuff is so good. But what? How did you get your start with comics in general? How did you get your start? When did you know that you were good at art, and kind of how did that lead into now?
I disagree. Okay, I need to correct you slightly. I still don't know if I'm good at art. You should always doubt yourself. If you okay, well, there's confidence within the art itself, and then there's confidence about your art. And if you get too confident with your art, if you think you're hot shit, you're probably setting yourself up for failure, I think. because you want to always be improving. You should be your own worst critic. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm good. Thank you for saying I'm good. That's your perspective, and that's what I need. But
I'll change it. You're one of my favorites, and you're one of the best that I know of.
just tell me I need work.
Maybe not so much your art, but maybe you personally.
You're sounding like.
That was fun. But yeah, what
I'll tell you how you think.
as Tom was alluding to it, I wanted to get into that too. Like when I see your style, it often reminds me of stuff like Dave McKean. So I was also wondering, like, yeah, what was your origin story? What led you down the road and got you into not only comics but just art in general?
Well, I think my work's changed a little bit over the years, hopefully for the better anyway. But yeah, when I was, I guess, late 90s to early 2000s was the high point of Dave McKean doing like Sandman covers and stuff like that. If you know who Dave McKean is, you know he did the Sandman covers, he did a bunch of other stuff. Doesn't really do comic stuff much anymore, but he was like one of the first to discover there was a program. I mean, I'm only going from my experience, so I'm probably factually incorrect, but he was, to me, one of the first to use Photoshop to manipulate existing art into things and into covers. And they were covers that have never been in the sort of thing in comics before. Anyway, subject-wise, they weren't Batman, they weren't just, a guy punching a guy. They were fine art, basically.
Yeah.
But he dabbled with that, and then everyone like, well, that's crazy that you can do that you can morph an ear onto someone's boob. That was possible now. We don't blink an eye now, but that was, there used to be a thing called before the internet. So this stuff was amazing. So I loved him, fell in love with his covers, bought the book of all the covers. I'm trying to detail my artistic proclivities when I was young. But then I just discovered that there was comic shops, because I read comics for a bit, but you get them at what you would call a drugstore, I guess, but we call them newsagents back in the day. And they were like American imports. But I just discovered that in the city where I'm from, Perth, Western Australia, a state bigger than Texas, bigger than Alaska, by the way. It's 3 times as big as Texas. There's only 2 million people. But anyway, they had a couple of comic stores, and I discovered this when I was a teenager and started reading all these other comics. And then I discovered there was this guy named Ashley Wood, and followed him for a little bit. He got a bit of Marvel work, but I actually found him first when he did a couple of little Australian things, which blew my mind that, oh, you can go from Australia and get into American comics. He was doing Ghost Rider 2099, and then popped up on a couple other things. But shortly after that, he got into the computer Photoshop sort of, and it will say Photoshop because there was no other drawing programs, I think, then. It was before tablets, before anything else. And he was meshing what he had done in the real world into art as well. And then I discovered he's from Perth. He's from my hometown, but he's about 8 years older. So never met him for the longest time locally before I was even in comics. But that gave me hope that, I can do something like that. So I just stuck to message. Before social media, there was a thing called message boards for anyone that's young.
I think message boards are still around in the form of Reddit.
Yeah. Well, I like Reddit, but I guess that's a message. That's a giant forum. Yeah. So I was just hanging out on one of those. I can't remember the name, but a bunch of comic people. Because the thing about comic people is, until Facebook and Twitter and everything else took over, and now there's only like 3 social media companies that we're all hooked into. But before that, the comic community kind of were the pioneers on a lot of computer social media type platforms that didn't survive. And a big part of that was Warren Ellis. Warren Ellis had his WEF, the Warren Ellis Forum, but he also would tell us all, because I was a member of that for many years, there's this new thing. I'm going to go try it. You should all come. And so we all came. One of them was Twitter. Just to circle back to that thing, I am over 13 years old on Twitter. I am a teenager. I'm not legal yet. I'm only 13. But I
Okay.
joined July 4th, 2007. So,
Wow.
and he and one guy from Perth were the first people I followed. So, yeah. So social media wise, comic books, we were huge into forums. I was on several, and there were forums where young artists post their work and show off, like you are with alcohol right there.
Oh, cheers.
And I just got noticed by the right people at the right time, and one of them was a guy named Brent Ash,
Ah.
art director. Oh, you know who Brent is?
Oh yeah. Brent's
Brent's
awesome.
been on the show.
Oh, good.
Brent
Has he?
Brent actually designed our new logo for us.
Fuck, I can't see your logo. Now I'm gonna have to look it up. Oh, do I see the logo? Is it the world with the headphones and a bat in
Oh,
it?
that's old
No.
school.
If you
okay.
look at where in our DM chat on Instagram,
Yeah.
my profile picture is that.
Social media.
I'm not part of this DM chat, am I?
Yeah, it was my message to
I'll
you.
look later.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's
you can see
awesome, and he is a great designer. But he liked my work, and he asked me to try out for a book at the time called Salmon Twitch.
Yes.
Which
Nice.
was happening, and so I did a couple of just sample pages. I'm like, oh, this is big time. This is from America.
Mhm.
That never happened for whatever reasons were going on with other things. But I got put onto Hellspawn because Ashley Wood had just left, and I was reading Hellspawn, and it blew my mind. So I tried to ape Ash's style for my first 4 pages, which were the last 4 pages of a comic book. That I'm a huge fan of Ash anyway. Certainly the old Ash was in sync with my mood I was trying to get in my work, and I was young, so I wanted to match it all up together so it was kind of seamless. So that was my first work. I think ironically I had that my first cover was for that book that I only did 4 pages in, but then the next issue, which I did the full issue of, had an Ashley Wood cover, so I just get confused. But that was my first comic work, and it was all from a message board and someone liking what they saw.
Wow.
And go, oh, hey, yeah, do you want to try out? I'm like, shit, yes. Am I allowed to swear?
Fuck
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
I'm not drinking, but
Let it go.
I accidentally swear sometimes.
Yeah, you
So-
gotta catch up somewhere. So do it with the swearing.
Mm-hmm. And then just to quickly recap, the how I got a career instead of just doing a couple of issues is we were doing a couple of issues of Hellspawn, but the approval process on those issues got longer and longer. I don't know why. That's by the by, but we had spare time. Me and the writer, Steve Niles, who was how I met Steve. So we just wanted to do another a small project in between issues, and I was really prolific when I was young, and my work probably needed more work. I was very quick. I didn't even ink my work. So he sent a list of pictures over of ideas he had for stories, and one of them was 30 Days of Night, and I said I want to do that one. So we did that one, and the mini series of that came out. That was my first fully complete comic story. So it was 3 issues of that. And by issue 2, it had got a movie. After issue 2 had come out, before I'd finished issue 3, it got a movie deal thing going on, which helped it continue to be published. Because the first issue actually sold crap. I was on a book called Hellspawn, which was pretty big, getting paid pretty decently because of the exchange rate in Australia. But then I was also doing this other comic, which is just creator-owned. I was really lucky that my second comic in my life was a creator-owned book where I had a small piece of it. But the sales weren't there. The first issue only sold 3,000 copies, which probably sounds like a lot these days. I don't know. But to some people. Hopefully, we hope for better times. So the publisher, IDW, and this book was knocked back by Dark Horse, by the way.
Oh, really?
Steve took it to a few places, and they said, nah, we don't want it. Because horror comics weren't cool then. But IDW took a risk, and ironically, IDW hadn't published regular comics at that point. They'd only ever done a couple of things for Ashley Wood, because I believe Ashley Wood knew one of the partners. But Steve got it in there. Yay, Steve. But the first issue sold like crap. So they came back and said, Ben, we can't afford to pay you to do this anymore, but we'll still publish it if you want to do it, if you want to finish it. It's 3 issues, so you got 2 issues left. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? I'm doing books. Of course I'm going to finish this. This is my life dream. And to cut a long story short, they weren't paying much anyway, so that was immaterial. I was making a pretty decent living thanks to Todd McFarlane, who gave me my break. Always treated artists really well to my mind. So I had this leeway and some time to do it, so it was fine. But in the process of doing that, I think Steve and the IDW was sending out a pitch book everywhere to Hollywood people, unbeknownst to me. But it got a movie deal. It had a bidding war, and that became a bit of news. And so after issue 3 had come out, and then I think they rushed to, they put out the trade collection of it. So the news coincided with that. So the trade sold really, really well. And then as a result, the first issue being so rare, the actual issues being rare, they became pretty hot books too. So, and I think they're still pretty valuable, apparently, because not many of them, and it had some history. And they'll probably get more valuable if they ever do a reboot of the movie that eventually got made. But because of that book, especially, I guess I have a career, and I got typecast as the vampire horror guy. Horror, I don't mind. That's a genre. Vampire, that's within a genre. It's like, no, I can do more than vampires. I did vampires for like 4 years after that and got very sick of vampires. So
you did some Buffy stuff, I think, right?
That's a funny thing. It's whatever's on my wiki or my own website. I use names of brands because people know them.
Yeah.
But those are designed for normies who go, I've seen the Buffy show. Well, I it. So, yeah, I've done a couple of covers, I think, for Buffy. But no,
She's hot.
I'm bad at faces. Faces take a lot more work to get them to look like people. I've done some Doctor Who comics, like interiors. I did a whole miniseries with Leah Moore. Not a miniseries, a one-shot with Leah Moore, Alan Moore's daughter, which was cool. I had to badger IDW to get that done, though. Say, I want to do this. I grew up with Doctor Who. I'm an Australian. So anyone outside of the United States hopefully grew up with Doctor Who. So it's in our blood, man. So I only did a couple of covers for Buffy. I don't know what other projects you want to list off, but I did do a small story for Star Wars, with no main characters in it. I jumped around. I did whatever people threw at me for a while, and I still do. But mostly, early on, I stuck to. I realized I wasn't getting work, except for put it this way: people thought me and Steve were a team, and we were, but they wouldn't come to me to offer me. Like, hey, Ben, would you do this? They'd go to Steve. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but if you want to have a career and longevity, you've got to have your own defined space too. So like, hey, I do this. Come to me if you'd like something. And I also wanted to write. I never wanted to just draw. So pretty early on, I decided I need to do my own sort of thing too. So I honestly don't remember maybe it was 2005. Or something like that. I did my own written and drawn stuff, for better or worse. I was living the dream, so I don't care. I liked it.
Well, if you can find that space where you're creating what you want to create and making your living that way, it doesn't seem like there's any other better way to go.
Yeah, I like working with other people sometimes. Historically, anyone I've worked with has ended up probably becoming my friend, or they were my friends to begin with, and that's why I worked with them. That would be the case now, anyway, because I have a lot of fun just doing everything, because I like the storytelling aspect. Maybe I need help with actual plot, but I like watching how stories are told. I'm not saying I'm good. I need to get better. I like it's a lifelong journey. There are some masters out there like Mike Mignola now, how he tells a story on a page with no dialogue, stuff like that. But I like having fun, and I'm very lucky that enough people hopefully like my stuff that they just let me do what I want to do. So I'm very lucky in that I'm not a regular commercial artist in a sense of I'm not looking for work. I'll never knock it back, but because money's money sometimes, and I am relatively poor, but there's a story to that too. But yeah, I'd rather be myself and do what I think I would read as a kid or as me. And if I like it, maybe someone else will. And that's the eternal question and problem is, can I make this cool that I like it, but that enough people will come along with me? So I've been pretty lucky so far. So, yeah. It's a privilege and an honor to be able to do that.
And
Not
that's
that there's anything wrong with
that's
Batman, by the way.
Yeah,
I have
definitely.
drawn some Batman, so I like Batman.
But
your
that's
Batman's
largely
awesome.
what. Sorry, go ahead.
I was
Sorry.
just saying, I love your interpretation of the ways you draw Batman.
Thanks, man. Depends which Batman you mean.
I
You mean the
there's
legit work or my having fun Batman?
the having fun stuff is the best because you could tell that's when you're just fucking like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna do the way I want to do.
Yeah, I call him Meth Batman.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of describing him.
I just like drawing this undead kind of skeletal, spooky looking dude he looks demonic anyway. So, which is the entire reason he dresses up as a bat.
Meth.
That's what I've had one of your prints of Meth Batman on my wall for years now. It's
Is
that one
standing on top of a chimney?
No, it's just
With
a
a
close up. It's like the really skeletal face with the cowl on it, and it's
I
very
know that one.
orange and blue. Yeah.
Yeah, I have that one too. It looks like the bat's detached from his body that's supposed to be on his chest.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
not.
I got that one.
Yeah,
I
it's
got that
fucking
one
sick.
when I first got it. I put it in my bathroom and I took a picture of it and I tweeted it saying, every time when I take a toozy, this is what I see.
Are
And
you sure? Is that all you took a photo of in the bathroom while with your pants down at the time?
the only thing I could post
You
on
put my
Twitter
outfit
without getting banned. But
Now, I like the horror aspect of him. So
yeah,
like Batman, Red Rain, and stuff like that. You know, the
Yeah.
darker side. Batman is meant to be dark.
right.
For sure.
What I think is cool is we've had Kelly Jones on a couple times,
Oh,
and
good.
he says the way he likes to draw Batman is the way that the second, third hand stories are told by criminals who are afraid of him. Like
Yes.
there's this I was attacked by a demon in an alley, and that's
Yep.
kind of like why he draws him the way he does. And I've always thought that's like your Batman is like a thug is high on crystal meth, and he gets his ass kicked by some crazy figure and they think it's a demon that's beating their ass, and this is the image if they told a sketch artist like what they saw, that's what it would be, and that's like your Batman.
Oh, was Kelly Jones nice? Because he is my fate. He is the reason I draw Batman the way I do.
He is the
Super
nicest
Batman. I would say.
probably one of the nicest guests we've ever had, like
He's
Oh, nice.
amazing.
insanely nice.
You mean more than me?
We'll see.
Well, you
We'll see,
still
guys.
got
It's
time.
fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
we're still early on in this.
Is he American? I'm assuming he's American.
Yeah.
I've never met him. I don't think I've met him. I'd love
I
to
met
meet
him. I think I met him the same year I met you, 2016. First
You should
Well, you
come
have
on,
your eyes and you have your
come back
lips.
on in October. That's when we have our annual Kelly Jones Spooktacular show. We'll
we have him on every Halloween.
It's
Oh,
so
nice.
fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So.
Nice. Anyway, he is the reason I do Batman. Because the thing is, and I have a whole rant about Batman. Do you want to quickly hear it?
Yes.
It's a very
It doesn't
quick
have
one.
to be
as you
quick.
want.
Yeah.
It's not that. So Kelly Jones draws Batman properly. Batman has really big ears, right? He should have demon ears and huge ears, because there are two kinds of bats. There's micro bats and the other ones. Micro bats are the vampire bats, the horseshoe bats. They're the ones that use sonar, right?
Right.
They're the evil little demonic looking bats. Then you have the larger kind of bats, which are different species, completely different clade. They're called fruit bats and flying foxes, and they're cute. And they shit a lot and scream a lot, and they're really annoying in parks, especially
Like a
in Australia.
baby.
Yeah, kind of like a baby, especially when there's 10,000 of them. So Batman should have big ears. He is the micro bat. He is the evil little one from the cave. Batman has a cave. And most artists don't draw him like that. They draw him with tiny little fruit bat ears. And the entire reason Batman dresses up as a bat is to be that demonic, dark, scary thing to the criminal or to the underworld or to the... I kind of say that Batman's a rich guy that dresses up to scare poor people and beat them up, but kind of true. I mean, he has billions. He could do other things, but he dresses up as a bat. But the psychology of Batman and all his villains is really what makes it interesting too. So, but so I draw him with big ears because of Kelly Jones and because I realized, he's dressing as a bat for a reason, not a fruit bat. May as well dress him as koala. Koalas are cute, mate. Koala Man. You should let me create Koala Man. I'm calling it. They sound popular.
That's the next tier added to your Patreon is the Koala Man tier.
Koala Man book.
Yeah. If you've ever heard koalas
There
having
you go.
sex.
12-issue series.
Yeah.
What does that sound like?
It sounds like old people wheezing, I think. But they sound horrible, but not in a scary way. Tasmania literally sound like it. Yeah, Koala Man's probably not going to be that big of a hit. But, Lee Jones is the reason I do Batman. And I do those ones for fun on my Patreon, just one a week.
Yeah.
Just because they're fun to draw. It's like my default go-to to relax is to doodle a Batman or a skull or something. It's like, well, Batman skull, that's sold, done.
Yeah,
that's a challenge for new ones.
Batter Day.
Saturday Batter Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not public yet, mostly, because they're still running their course on my Patreon for a while before I try and offer them for sale there, and then I'll start showing them publicly as well. Right. And go, here's what you missed on my Patreon, like 2 months ago.
I gotta say that's one of my favorites. But then recently with your alien stuff, I was like, God damn, that is awesome looking. Well, and your alien stuff is your xenomorphs are so good. There's like you're just naturally you're built to draw xenomorphs. I feel like.
No, I'm trying new things. I'm trying to put some detail in, but still in a fun image that it allows me to learn. But I hate rulers. I don't do straight lines. Aliens and the biology of that, no straight lines. That's fine. I love that. Do not ask me to draw Transformers. I will suck.
Yeah.
But thank you for the kind words on the aliens. I love the whole franchise. So.
You did mention, I can't remember if it was on Twitter where you were talking about, like, did you do like a marathon recently or something where you watched all the newer ones?
I mean, not online or anything. Maybe I mentioned I watched a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But I didn't do I didn't never declared I was doing a real marathon, I think. But I mean, I have done.
I do remember.
And the funny thing is, I don't know how, but I got on someone's list, and I'll give them a plug. I got on a list, and because there's a new show just out that's I think he directed the first episode too. I can't remember. But Ridley Scott has got a new TV show called Raised by Wolves.
Yeah.
And it does look like it's got some sort of aliens in it, not xenomorph aliens, but it deals with artificial intelligence yet again, and they've got milky blood, and so I don't know what. Maybe it's because I was drawing the aliens, but I got on a list of to watch the premiere a few days early, and I got a nice little gift pack and stuff like that.
Oh, that's like, right.
Yeah, first time in my life someone made me feel pretty.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. It's just like, wait, what is the link? Why did I get this? It's like, is it because they know I do alien xenomorph Ridley Scott stuff? And yeah, man, no, I love it. Oh, and one of the highlights of my life, I have to tell you because I'm excited by aliens and xenomorph. I did a con in London one year. It was a weird con. It was in London, obviously, but we never left the airport. It was all like around Heathrow, but then they drove us into the city to do the actual con. One of the guests there was Tom Skerritt, Dallas from the original Alien.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. But turns out he lives in Seattle, where I am now, or around Seattle, where I am now. So on the way home, we had to catch the same flight. Different classes, of course. He's in first class. I'm in cattle class. But for some reason, they dropped us off really early because they didn't want us to miss the plane. So we had to leave and get there at like 6 a.m. So no one else is in the gate lounge waiting to go on this flight except me and fucking Tom Skerritt. Now I think he thinks I did movies or something because I had a movie made out of one of my books. But he sat there and chatted to me for 2 hours just about his life and a few little tidbits about aliens, but mostly about his life, and it was amazing. So man, I got to meet Dallas and have a real Captain Dallas, whatever, and have a real conversation with him, and that is my I can die happy now.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. It was like, yes, this is one of my childhood. This film shaped me or helped shape me, and I'm sat here just chatting to this guy.
Yeah.
And he gave me his card afterwards. I'm like, I'm not sure what I can do for you, Mr. Tom Skerritt, but that was
well,
great.
We all have some of those numbers that we never know what occasion we'll need to use them on, but okay, I've got it.
So I will tell you, being a comic book artist that vaguely has had anything to do with Hollywood at all, which is a lot now. There's a lot of people. You get to have some strange situations, and because the way media is converging with the synergy, or whatever the buzzwords are, you may doubt other things because they want your style or your expertise, not expertise really, but stuff. So you get meetings and you get to meet people. It's weird, and through the cons as well. But it's very hard to have genuine experiences with the big people. So I had a genuine one with Tom, and that I will take to my grave.
It's awesome.
As a very good thing. I will never meet Sigourney Weaver though, but or Ridley Scott. But
never say never.
Well, I'd like to, but yeah, I don't know. I just want to sit and listen. Have them tell me the real stuff.
What's your favorite Aliens movie?
Well, it's tied. Well, that's not fair because each one is kind of its own kind of movie generally. Yeah. So number one is its own kind of movie, and that works very well. Number two is a very different sort of movie, and I like it equally. That one is a war movie with a horror war movie, and the first one's a horror stalking movie. Yeah. Horror. I don't know what you call that, but they're very different. Mouse. But I like them equally. Alien 3, yeah, I just didn't know because it shat all over too. It just decided, no, we're not gonna. Anything you cared about is gone. So number 4, I quite like. Alien Resurrection was its own separate thing. I really like that, possibly because I have a crush on Winona Ryder too, but that's by the by. But it was more comic booky, but it still had all the good elements in it. And that's the end of the Alien ones, isn't it? Well, there was the 2 Predator ones. Yeah. The first one was pretty good. Second one was kind of crazy.
The first, I can't even keep them apart in my head.
The AVP was the Antarctic one.
Okay.
And then the second one, they made it to a small town in, I guess, the Pacific Northwest. I'm not sure. Somewhere like that. Yeah, they were kind of like big and dumb.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on the latest Predator film either. So.
Predators?
Yeah. As opposed to, well, is it Predators or Predator?
No idea. I haven't watched it. I couldn't tell you.
The one not with the guy with the big nose.
Oh, wasn't that?
That was on the planet, Lawrence Fishburne. That one was pretty good.
That was the second one. Was not AVP, like part 2?
No, that was the complete remake of like the reboot. The first time they reboot, not the last one, the latest one, but not the one written by or done by Shane Black.
The guy from The Pianist.
Yeah, man.
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody.
Yeah, Adrian Brody. Yeah, that one not too bad. But the last one, Shane Black, he must have done a lot of cocaine.
That was Predators, right?
That was what?
That was Predators.
I'll go with that because I don't know for sure. I don't remember the name because I keep trying to change that. The next time they'll do it, the S will be backwards, and that'll be but it's still Predators.
Or it'll be a Z, Predators.
Yeah, with a Z. Yeah, Z. But Aliens, I don't know. I hope it comes back somehow. I don't think it will for a very long time, not with Disney in charge, because they seem to want to stay on brand. Yeah. I don't understand why they don't just spin the mature stuff they have off again into its own thing and go, okay, well, we own it, but it's not us. We'll make money, but you'll know it's not fighting the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, because like they buy up these properties that have been successful for decades on their own. It seems the best idea would be, okay, we own this now, but you guys who have handled this, keep handling it, keep making it successful, and we'll just keep taking the money from it.
Yeah, but they have been... Some of those properties have been driven into the ground somewhat lately.
True. Aren't they? Aren't they moving on a new Deadpool?
I hope so. That's definitely fresh and new. So they need more of that.
If they're willing to do Deadpool, I gotta imagine that like they'll probably be willing to do some of the horror stuff too.
I don't know. I don't know how true it is, but from just words that I had heard, it sounded like the moving forward Deadpool was going to be toned down.
That's not.
I have no interest in watching it. Deadpool I will not watch it on R-rated.
Yeah, there's no
Right.
point.
It's like one of those, it's the whole thing with the Spider-Man. It's like they're just back and forth with Sony, and they don't know who owns what, so they're kind of just,
I think Deadpool was Fox, was it not?
Oh, Fox.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that makes
same
sense.
as
Yeah.
Alien.
Right. Oh, that
Yeah,
makes
so it's
sense.
like-
Yeah, because now they officially own Fox. So
Yeah.
If they're down to make a R-rated Deadpool, they should be down to make a decent Alien movie. So
Yeah, but
But-
Deadpool is linked to the Marvel Universe in such a way that it's money left on the table for them, especially
Oh,
with the
true.
success it's already had. Aliens, not so much success lately.
right.
Not with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. So it's like, for them, that'd be more risky, wouldn't it? Maybe they'll let it
Yeah.
sit for a while.
Have you
I wanna be
collected
wrong.
any of the? Have you collected any of the NECA figures, like the figures they make?
No.
So cool.
I have very few.
Very, very cool.
Well, see,
Very well made.
When I look up reference to draw aliens, I come across these amazing Japanese ones, these full-on
Ah.
sculptures, but they're like 600 or $1,000 or something, and
Yeah.
those are what I would save up for. But I don't have room
Uh-huh.
for them right now, so
Yeah.
yeah. I got into toys, but not into the alien stuff. I got into Ashley Wood's robot toys and sexy ladies. Have you ever heard of 3A? He had a little.
Yeah.
He was literally making
For sure.
dolls. They were dolls, but they had fully articulated
Yeah.
fingers and hands and things. But
Brent got to work on a lot of the
yes, he did.
packaging and design stuff for that stuff.
Yeah, him and Ash
Very cool stuff.
go way back too from that whole time. So
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Speaking of ladies, what are you working on right there?
Speaking of ladies,
Speaking of ladies, what are you working on right there?
well, okay, I guess there is a lady there. In silhouette, I'm drawing a lady giving birth to a baby, a demon baby who's bursting out of her stomach.
Fuck yeah.
I'm on board.
Not exactly what the ladies you thought it was. Yeah, this
That's
is a
my
page
kind
for
of lady.
Wormwood. This is a page for Wormwood, which isn't technically public yet, and won't be for a little while because it's one of the new pages
Awesome.
in the latest batch I'm doing for the Patreon first. So
Now, since we're talking about that, earlier you had mentioned you were talking about your work rate earlier in your career, and you said that you weren't inking your own work back then. How has your process changed over the years? What is it now?
well, the older you get, the slower you get, really. I mean, to a degree. Everything slows down the older you get. Your metabolism does. Your tolerance for alcohol does. Well, back in the day, all I was doing was pencil and then sort of watercolor washes, and then I would scan that in and colorize that and add sort of photo elements to it with Photoshop. I'd like drop bits of. I do the Greg Land way, except opposite, where I draw the thing first, and then I would drop little bits of hints of faces and photos over it to get the shadowing kind of really and a bit of life in it. I don't know. I was trying to do that. I was trying to be Dave McKean, but I stopped that after a while, and I realized, I should draw more, but I should also ink it, and then add paint because I was getting into more detail. I need to do more detail. I'm too sketchy. So over a few years, I stopped being that prolific and put more work into it in the real world, not the computer world. And I never stopped. I still use a mouse. I don't draw on computer. I'm very old tech. I'm what Dave McKean and Ashley Wood probably were doing in the early 2000s or late 90s. Maybe I should get a tablet. I don't know. But there was one year, I forget what year it was, but I did 18 issues of books, not one book, in a year. And that was a rough year. And probably not the best work, but I did 18 issues in 1 year. Now I definitely don't do that. I probably couldn't do 12 issues in 1 year, like a monthly book. A monthly book would probably kill me. So I like to have breaks. But I can be prolific when I can, but then I need a break. And then I can be prolific again. So maybe I could still do 12, just in my own way. But
So that wouldn't be something that you would take on, like, say for example, like you were asked to do like, Batman Monthly or something like that. That isn't the kind of project that you would want to take on necessarily.
I would assume if I was doing a Batman book monthly, Batman's Batman. It's one of the. That's never going to happen for one. But in this construct of the world, I would assume that would mean it would allow me to not worry about anything else, and I could just draw that stuff. So, I mean, I think I could. I'd probably get very tired at the end. I'd probably do like 1.5 issues for a couple of months. I could probably do that, but then have a break, and that would restore me to do more.
There you go.
Because you need a break. After like 4 or 6 issues, you need rest. Especially if you're drawing the same sort of thing for the whole time. You get a little, not bored. Bored's not the word, but burnt out from drawing the same thing. Although Batman, you never get bored drawing Batman. But yeah, you need a little cleanser sometimes.
It's
which is
funny
why I
that-
mostly do miniseries.
It's funny that you think it would never happen, because so many people would love your style on a Batman book. Like, Batman lends himself to your style because you do that unrealistic realism. Like, there's a sort
Abstract,
of
let's say abstract.
there's a weight and a depth to your art, but it doesn't look realistic, and that a character like Batman works really well for that. Like, that's why your Batman work that you do put out looks so good. They fit perfectly together.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you. And if anyone's listening who wants to give me a Batman book, go ahead. But I think right now they're paring things down and making sure what they are putting out is very solid and probably not really risk-takey, kind of eclectic, kind of weird stuff. But
Unfortunately,
I can dream. I would jump to do Batman. Batman would be great. Especially the thing with Batman is I almost like his whole villain gallery more than the Batman himself. To me, he's got the most iconic villains.
Yeah.
And the craziest kind of interesting ones. They're not cookie cutter villains. They're not like kind of, I'm going to say the Marvel villains, at least in the movie sort of side, where they all kind of blend in and you forget, oh, okay, that guy can do that. The Batman villains are very definite. They have their own shtick, each one. So their own mental issues. I don't know.
What are some of your favorites?
Batman villains?
Yeah.
Joker's a big one, obviously. But Killer Croc, I quite like Killer Croc. I did get to draw Killer Croc, so. But don't really care about the Riddler. But I mean, the Batman Who Laughs is kind of the coolest one of late. So. But there's a lot of new stuff with the heavy metal too.
I'm sure you're familiar with Dave McKean's work in Arkham Asylum.
I forgot to say, that was the book that made me realize the potential of comics.
Yeah.
Like, this is still kind of comics, a superhero. But it's not. It's just a dark mind fuck. It's a very psychological thing. So, Grant Morrison and Dave McKean, they got me started with that stuff, really. So, yeah, that was one of my earliest pivotal books. Yeah. That and Enemy Ace, War Idol, Idol. I think it's an idol. I don't know how you pronounce that word because I'm a moron. It's about the German fighter ace in World War One, and that also taught me that comics don't have to just be. They're just stories, and they can have amazing evocative art. They don't have to be realistic, which is a shame because everything's trying to be realistic these days, and I don't think it works. Not as much. We're losing that personality in a lot of art styles, and there's a lot more realism instead of just having fun,
Yeah, I think the things that come along to do the best are the artists who have their own strong style, like something that's very different, like Lieber Mayo stuff and Sean Murphy stuff. Like, these things really resonate with people because it's something different. Like, ooh, look at that. That doesn't look like just Batman in the blue cape with the yellow belt. And
Lee is able to get a sense of realism in there that is jaw-dropping, in that it's still quintessentially his style, but it is still realistic in a way. And I don't mean, I'm not poo-pooing all realistic styles. It's just that it seems like there's a trend to get more realism in instead of more life into a lot of, I'm talking the broad spectrum. I'm not singling anyone out, but I mean, Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, Jim Lee, I mean, all the Image guys, like, they weren't realistic guys in a sense. They were abstract and they were cartoony, but there was a dynamism and a life there, and that's what made them the superstar artists of that time. You don't really see too much of that anymore. You don't see many superstar artists. Sean is probably one of them, And he's not realistic, really. I mean, he's fantastic, but I wouldn't call his style realistic.
No.
Not in a sense of like, oh, I'm heavily referencing each photo face and stuff like that. But this is a stiffness that comes into some of those that I don't know. I don't become a fan of. I'm more of a fan of like Mignola and Paul Pope and Trad Moore and people like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's so many good ones. Well, for me, it's all subjective. Ignore me.
but
I'm full of shit.
Everything that you're naming, though, everyone that you're naming are people who have strong styles. Like they're all of those artists, their work is immediately recognizable as them.
Yeah, I mean, if ultimately if you want a career and you want to be successful, but you want to be known for your work, having a strong style that is immediately recognizable is definitely the way to go. I mean, there are a lot of people that they're kind of the journeyman kind of artists where they look reminiscent of other bigger people, and they can get through, on like smaller books and go, yeah, he's like that guy. So if you like that big guy that costs a lot of money, you'll like this. And that's a very company corporate thing to do. But then those people don't really get to have their own voice, and they don't get to shine the way they might want to truly draw something. They're just aping what they think everyone else wants stylistically already. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea what their perspective is or how they come to it. That's just what I see. I may be wrong, but they should speak for themselves. I can't put words in their mouth. So I'm just looking at the mainstream stuff. Within creator-owned kind of stuff, it's a different ballgame, and anyone can do anything, which is great. So, but you guys like to talk about Batman most,
I think
right?
we talk about whatever Batman brings us to,
Okay.
So we've been lucky.
Batman.
No, it doesn't need to at all.
Oh,
we've had like Marvel guys on here that have never worked on Batman, and indie guys.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel less.
I think what's awesome is the listeners kind of follow us to kind of the rabbit holes that we fall into, which is nice.
Good.
But something that I think that you were touching on, that I think like holds more weight now is the creator-owned, the indie stuff, like the crowdsourcing, the crowdfunding stuff. And I think that's like what's awesome is that it gives creators like you the opportunity to kind of really do whatever it is that you want to do on your own. And it gives the people who are fans of your specific style the opportunity to get like just the exact thing that you want to make that makes them love your work and can get it directly to their hands. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like, I was saying before we started recording, I was taking a peek at your Patreon, and I got to say, and I hope the listeners take account that you probably have one of the best Patreons I've seen. Specifically, all the tiers are really cool. The $28 tier is really awesome because you get the prints, you get the individual book that you're making at the quarter, whatever it is that you're kind of working on at the time. But then when you jump up to the kind of higher tiers, I don't know if there's that many artists that are doing what you're offering, which is number one, you can get drawn into like a book within reason. Another thing that you're doing,
if it's relevant to the time, yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that you're doing is you're sending out original art and like full pages, depending upon the tier. So like if you're working on a book and you're one of the higher tier, supporters, you'll get like a full, like what you're working on right now might be something that you get once a month.
Can I assert myself on one of the first things you said before you so graciously promoted my Patreon?
Go ahead.
The crowdfunding and stuff as well. You said the word indie. What does indie mean to most people? Does it mean independent?
For me, like when I hear, yeah, that's what I think of it as. I mean, like not having.
Oh, you're not in trouble. Don't get me wrong. I'm not giving you shit.
No, I think
explain something though. Because we use these terms indie, independent, and mainstream. Oh, mainstream, and they're the wrong words to use. There is independent and corporate, because corporate means controlled by other people, and that is still most comics, and a lot of comics that get called indie. So like crowdfunding, generally, you're truly on your own. You are paying for human beings to make something that is their thing that they control, right? That's independent. So, and then but there are all these smaller publishers in comics. They get called indie, which kind of annoys me because I've dealt with them somewhat. I have a history with some of them. They help make my career, but they're not independent. And you are certainly not independent when you do a book with them necessarily. You get told what to, especially if it's a licensed book. But they're corporations. They're owned by vast entities and other people. Almost all of them. Pretty sure Dark Horse is the last. Well, no. I think Dynamite might be the only one owned by a single individual or a couple sort of thing, rather than a huge investor group or some other corporation or something like that. So to me, creator-owned comics means, well, creator-owned and creator-controlled are two slightly different things too. Because I've done creator-owned comics, but they're not creator-controlled comics, because it turns out like the publisher has 50.1% control, which means they get the final say on stuff. So it's not truly creator-owned comics. It's not creator-controlled comics. So you get into this minefield of stuff. I just say corporate and non-corporate comics. Because you can't really, unless you know the back-end deal behind a comic, you're not sure who's really making the most money, if any, from a property. And my goal as a creator is always to have, not me, well, yes, me, but any creator profit the most from their own work. That should be the ethical long goal of any of that stuff. If you're working on Batman, you know what you're signing up for. You don't own Batman. That's fine. It's just a lot of fun. But with other stuff, it's like, yeah, corporate and non-corporate. And to me, yes, crowdfunding and Patreon, all about non-corporate, independent, your own stuff. You can have your own company, that's fine. But because that's a tax thing. But yeah, there's that. Sorry, that was a rant, wasn't it?
It was a beautiful rant.
Rants are welcome.
It's like, because people use him indie, and sometimes, and I know you didn't mean it as this, but sometimes it's used.
No, I meant it.
Some people look at it derogatively and like, oh, it's indie, which means it doesn't have like the resources to back it up, or it's just lower quality, or. But it turns out large comic book publishers don't do much anyway. Not in terms of marketing to the rest of the world, anyway.
Yeah, oftentimes indie seems to be used to describe any company that isn't Marvel or DC.
Which also annoys me, because there are other comic publishers owned by billionaires in the comic book industry. Mm-hmm. Or certainly controlled by billionaires, if not owned by them outright. But, there's a lot of money, like larger entities controlling these smaller entities in comics. There's very few truly independent small publishers. I mean, there are obviously a whole bunch, but they're very small. But
it's something that kind of goes along with what you're saying is something that I found to be very disappointing, and it matches up exactly with what you're saying. Is I remember when Valiant got rebooted, mm-hmm. and they were doing the Shadow Man, they were doing Bloodshot and all these books that were really cool, quote unquote indie or whatever. And I remember they had announced that, we're gonna do a Bloodshot movie, Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's going to be awesome. Like a Bloodshot movie. It's not going to be like one of these Hollywood studio movies. It's going to be like gritty and dark and everything. And as time progressed, it literally became a fucking Hollywood blockbuster movie. It turned into, what's his name? Vin Diesel.
Calling himself
Vin
Bloodshot.
Diesel. It just turned into a Fast and the Furious movie. And I remember being like, fuck, this is so far away from what I thought they were going to do. And it's the complete opposite direction that I thought they were going to go with. But turns out, just like you said, at some point, Valiant got rebought by I don't know who, and they got the producers of the Fast and the Furious movies involved with that movie, and it just turned into the same shit that I don't want to go see in the theater, because it's the same movie over and over again with a different title. So it's like, damn it,
See, I get that. But they're owned by larger financial interests. I don't remember who they are. But the thing with Valiant is they were always wanting to develop the universe and emulate Marvel. Everyone wants to emulate Marvel. So, of course, they're going to make a as mainstream as possible Marvel-ish kind of look to that film. They're not going to make I still don't know how the Joker movie got made.
Yeah.
But it did, and that was amazing. Because that's not what they would make if they want to make money. They wouldn't take a risk. They're going to try and make it look like a Marvel film, aren't they? Yeah. I still haven't seen it, but
what made that Bloodshot movie look even worse was the fact that shortly before it, the Bat and the Sun guys did that Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe. They did a live action take on all the Valiant characters, and their Bloodshot looked like comic Bloodshot, and he looked outstanding, and he was played by the Power Ranger guy.
Oh man, I love
the
like
Green
that's
Ranger.
that's an independent production.
Yeah, they did this outstanding version of him, and then Hollywood comes out with Vin Diesel just looking like Vin Diesel called Bloodshot.
Yeah, that's because the people with money want as little risk as possible, so they'll go with what they know. In theory, they know probability-wise will make the most money or not lose much. Yeah. And Vin Diesel said, I like Vin Diesel. I don't know. I was more into Shadow Man than Bloodshot per se to know. I mean, look, they still haven't made a really good Punisher film either, and that's Marvel. So
the Netflix Punisher stuff was really good.
Yeah. Well,
the show was really good.
Yeah,
I liked the Punisher a lot in the Daredevil show. That's where it got me. I was like, okay, that's a good Punisher. I don't think I watched the finale of the Punisher thing because that's when we knew it was never going to continue. So I'm like, I'm not going to get into it because it'll break my heart. So
yeah,
he was good.
We got
was
sidetracked.
Funny, the timing on that. Speaking of that Punisher, to continue sidetracking us, we had one of the writers on from the Netflix Punisher series.
Oh, Ken.
Yeah,
Nice.
and at the time that we spoke to him, he didn't know yet. They were waiting for the verdict to find out if they were going to get to make that last season or not. Like, because they had another season written. The whole season arc was written. They had all of the episodes plotted out. What segments of the story were going to be told. They were all ready to go in and break down episode by episode and get ready to shoot. And they were just waiting to find out if they would get to or not. And then obviously, as we all found out, they didn't get to.
We interviewed him the 2 days before they canceled it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we got that show canceled.
It wasn't his fault. They were cutting down the whole TV line, weren't they?
Yeah.
They cut him. They cut Luke Cage. They cut, what was the other one they did? The Defenders, Iron Fist. Fuck.
Yeah.
And what was funny was at the time, what everyone was talking about in the movies was Thanos killing 50% of the Marvel Universe. But then what happened at the same time was that Mickey Mouse killed 100% of the Marvel Netflix universe.
Yeah.
They decided to do some corporate cosplay.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll kill them for real. At least for now. I mean, they're probably just going to whack a whole bunch of new stuff up on the new streaming service they've got now. So, but these things take years to I don't know. It sucks. But it was really nice. I actually met one. I think I met briefly at a con because cons are amazing for the grassroots sort of this. I met the showrunner for Iron Fist briefly at a con. He was very nice. It's like he was a cruising artist alley, like that.
Oh, nice.
Like that. That's a grassroots thing to do, man. It's like you don't have to be here. You're a Hollywood guy. You're mixing with, you're getting whole things made, but you're meeting artists at their table and seeing how the stuff's made. He must have been a genuine fan of the medium, so. Which is nice and not always expected of Hollywood types. So it's nice.
Ben, tell us about your Patreon tiers.
I guess the Patreon. You've had a lot of guests on probably that are so your audience is savvy, right?
Yeah.
Have they heard of Patreon before? Have they heard of Patreon before?
Mostly OnlyFans.
What is OnlyFans? Robin, what is
I'm more familiar. I'm more familiar with Only Hans. That's the website where you buy nudes of Hans from Simpsons.
Hans from Simpsons?
Yeah, the old Hans Molman, the old man.
Oh, right. Oh, no, my mind is going to some dark places right now.
Good. That's what we wanted.
You guys should start. Everyone's going to start an OnlyFans soon.
It's getting to that point right now.
I'm going to have one, and it's just going to be my drawing hand. Hand.
A seductive hand. Oh, look at it touch itself.
Fingers.
You moisturize? Look at that.
Well, that escalated quickly.
No, I don't moisturize.
Wow, it's
just naturally supple.
Wow.
Naturally supple. I give great massages if you're interested, just so you know.
With your hands or with your beard?
Both. My wife likes one.
Tom's been looking for a good mustache ride.
My wife likes one. My cats like the other. I'll let you decide which is which. No, my cats love my beard.
On which Patreon tier do you get to choose which is which?
On a new one I'm making up tonight.
Yeah.
So to cut a long story short, Patreon is like a mini Kickstarter or crowdfunding thing where you have a project. Okay, so crowdfunding, people understand you back a project, it eventually gets made, hopefully. That's another long story. And you get your thing, but then it's done, right? Mm-hmm. Patreon is sort of like an ongoing one where you back a creator and what they make gets to you, or you get to look first, or you get to see the making of, or I try to treat it, and I think if you're lucky enough to have a small audience anyway, and you can bring them to that site, it's sort of like a fan club. It's a fan club. It's a sort of slightly pay-to-enter fan club, because I want to give people access to me. I want to give them fancy things that I can create because they afford me the opportunity to, because I can afford to, like, oh, I'll make that sticker. I'll make that print. I'll give everyone this month, or here's this new book that I've done with a special printing just for you. So I treat it as a fan club. It really is. And I've nearly made 5 complete projects, 4 comic series.
Wow.
Miniseries. Yeah. I mean, some of them, one's over 200 pages. It's like if it was regular comics, it would probably be an 8 or 9 issue maxi series, and an art book and a few other things, and a lot of prints. So I do daily art. So I do a Saturday Batter Day. So I get to show people, and I show full process too. So I show, like, here's my Batman for this week, and I started a new one called Cyber Monday, which is because I'm really excited about the Cyberpunk game coming up. So I've decided to do a bunch of cyberpunky art because. But this will eventually be seen in public. But what I do is I do a whole batch of art, like over 8 weeks, and then I have a special store just for the patrons, and they can buy the art if they like, and eventually I'll put it up all in public as well. Eventually. But they get first crack at anything, and they get prints of things. Well, when I do a book, like, just to say, for example, you sign up for the $28 tier. I don't know how I decided on $28. Probably because it was like, well, this is enough that if I get 3 months worth of that, it can afford me to print this when it is done in 3 months and ship it to you. And what I do is, so you don't just get a book when I finish. I'm jumping around. On average, I do 2 pages a week, full process of one comic project. I have done more than one project at a time too, and I probably will be again soon. But after like 2 or 3 months, I have enough for a comic, usually. And I collect that, and I'll print my own copies of that, exclusive to the Patreon. But I don't just give you a book. I give you a book and prints, several prints, usually of things that I thought, well, this could be a cover, but do you want this as a cover or not? And they vote on which cover they want. So the other 2 get to be prints. And stickers, and I've done patches and badges, and I put it all in a custom made wax sealed envelope. So I send you like an entire pack when a project is finished. Not a project, but an issue of the project. So you get those, very small edition. So it's a fan club, and you get special things that are thank yous just to you guys. I probably need to adjust the prices slightly, in that if I lose money on a lot of the stuff, technically, because I mean, shipping, if you're outside of America, shipping a book will cost the 1 month fee anyway. But I'll take a loss. It's fine. It's about the fans. But it's really just being able to show a select audience who really do like your stuff, so I don't feel as conspicuous about things. Like, oh, are they going to like it? I'm not needing to impress them, because I already know they like my stuff. Put it that way. So right. They just follow me on my journeys. And I ask them, what would you like me to do next sometimes? Because I have like, well, I'd like to do this project or this project. What do you guys think? And it's not about what will sell more or what will be more popular. It's about, I already want to do both of these. Which one would you guys like to see? So yeah, I'm coming up to that shortly, because I'm nearly finished with my latest miniseries, this is page 8 of an issue that's going to be far too big at 34 pages.
Wow.
The final issue.
And then
Of
some
what?
of your tiers, on some of your tiers, you actually give those pages out as part of the
I do.
yeah.
I need to check. I need to check if there's more people signed up for those because, especially with the first issue, I have a habit of sending a page to, with the first issue at least, sending an original page in with some of the packs to the. I'm going to call them super backers, people that have been with me from the beginning who have contributed far too much to my rent. So I give them. I like putting in little presents and little extras, and you have a real relationship with some of them. And I don't mean sexually. I mean, you get to know who they are, and you'll meet them at cons. And
Well,
it's
I
like,
guess
I
I
like it as
my
friends.
hopes for the Patreon are gone.
Well, like I told you, I give good massages.
All right.
There you
I got supple hands, man. Supple. And you got a beard, so like it's a plus, all right, there.
Yeah.
I will do things for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Patreon, and it helps pay my rent.
Yeah.
But the one thing it can't do is because when you do have like a 3 or 4 issue, 5 issue, 6 issue, or 9 issue miniseries or an art book, it costs hundreds to print single issues when you go to a printer, for small numbers. But it's going to cost thousands to print a much larger tome, a collected tome. So to collect them, and some of them need to be collected rather than just offered as a single issue sort of deal, you probably have to go to the larger crowdfunding. So I'm probably going to have to get back into that game. Problem with that is I need to fix an old one first because I got ripped off for a substantial amount of money on one many years ago. And I still need to refund a few people. Because I lost about $90,000, probably.
Holy shit!
Well, that's what happens when you have a business partner who spends a lot of the money before the books are sent out. So
Yeah, so I had heard about that through I can't remember if it was through your Twitter or if I think maybe you were having a
I've
conversation.
bitched about it several times, but
yeah, and it's fucking too bad because you're the last person something like that should happen to. So that's why.
Well, it shouldn't happen to anyone. But
right.
The bottom line is with any crowdfunding thing, make sure the money, if your name is on the thing, that the money goes to you.
Yeah.
Instead of nice organic lunches every day when he's having lunch, because he did that. He spent some. I was very trusting back then, so I didn't look at the company account. I never once spent any money from it because it wasn't my money. But yeah. They did pay for a bit of the rent at the studio that we all shared, but that was a different. I mean, that's fine. That's running cost of helping me make the book. And I did get some money. I got enough money to live while I produced the actual book. The irony is I did that book to take one for the team anyway. So I only got paid enough to survive, basically, because that Kickstarter was meant to right the ship for the little collective we had at the time. It was a different entity. It wasn't just me. It was an entity called 40-Foot Flood. So, But anyway, the guy that had a habit of spending a lot of that money decided to leave, which we were relieved at the end because he was the problem in the scheme of things. He wanted to fire a lot of people and control everything. He called it his company instead of our company. That's a little Freudian slip. That was a bit weird. But so we had enough to print the books. Then I moved, which was partly to do with all of that. And then I was funneling money as best I could of my life savings to ship as many of those books as we could. And eventually I just burnt out for a long time. And, you get a little depressed about things like that. But I think I'm coming back now, and I think I have about $17,000 to refund. If I just because they're mostly overseas backers now. It's about 100 people that were owed some stuff. I don't think they'll ever get the books because I don't have the books anymore of what's left. They're in another city and it's complicated, and I would just literally be losing more money instead if I just didn't just refund them. It would probably be the cheaper option. But I do hope to print that book again because that was the most successful thing I've ever done under my name. And now is the time for crowdfunding. So I have an awful lot of things that I can actually put out there because I've been very quiet for a very long time because of that situation. So it's probably time to get back to it. I've learned a lot. I've learned everything you shouldn't do and a lot of things you should do in crowdfunding. So we'll just wait and see. I don't know. But that's how to get the bigger things from my Patreon, because I'll be doing the individual. I do a lot of prestige format, sort of perfect bound 44 to 50 page comics. They're nice. They're not like your regular comic issue. They're much larger. So people get those. But when you want to collect 5 of those into one with a nice cover, it gets a bit more expensive. So you've got to go more the other route. And then after that, then you can go to a publisher and go to the direct market where people that don't really know you exist might still pick it up. In theory, if the direct market survives.
Yeah.
Which I hope it does, because we still need it. It's still like, I don't know what that phrase is. It's not the tail that wags the dog. It's one of those sort of phrases. It's a thing that drives everything else, even if it's not the thing you should go to first as a single creator. Comics is. I'm sorry. I apologize if I'm getting boring too. This is boring. Cut me off.
Not at all.
I'm more bored about everybody
not at
else.
all.
You're fine.
I don't get to talk to many people.
It's been a crazy time.
It's a pandemic. So what do you think?
I know.
Well,
no, it's nice.
Maybe I can touch on something else here then. You mentioned
you
mentioned Cyberpunk. Oh yeah, I am. You mentioned Cyberpunk a couple minutes ago. Were you referring to the game?
Yes, only because saying Cyberpunk 2077 is a bit more of a mouthful than saying the Cyberpunk game.
So are you very deep into games?
Yes and no. Not console games.
PC gamer. So you're a real gamer.
Well,
Frogger, huh?
I'm one of the. I'm a strategy game guy. I like history a lot, so I grew up playing games. Okay, one of my first games, which blew my mind, was Leisure Suit Larry, which was fantastic.
Fucking, that game was the shit.
When you're a kid, that is fucking
Oh my
crazy.
god, that game was the shit.
I think I hit puberty because of that game.
Yeah.
That was a strange game. Then I discovered a game called Civilizations, which also blew my mind. And so I like strategy games, war strategy, and ancient history strategy. So like there's the Total War series of games. And there's Paradox Interactive, make a whole bunch of games. There's one called Crusader Kings, or Crusader Kings 2. And if you do like Game of Thrones before the final season, there's a game called Crusader Kings 2. Yeah, but it's got a mod. And the mod is the most accurate representation of the Game of Thrones world possible. And you can play any lord or house you want, and you can literally do fucked up shit to everyone.
Oh, nice.
You can play the Ironborn and take salt wives and castrate their men.
Yes.
You don't literally see them being castrated because it's a strategy game, so you get pop-up boxes. But,
Well, then I'm out.
Well, we'll talk. No, I play a lot of very dry games that you could. One game would last for weeks if you wanted to play it through to the end, but most people get bored. But no, for real games, the generic, we'll call them the mainstream games. Although they're all corporate, because they're still corporations. Mass Effect was my big thing, because I like dark science fiction.
Oh, yeah. Mass Effect was amazing.
Yeah, and I do want to play the Ghost of Tsushima, however you say it. That looks beautiful. Was into Red Dead for a little while. But Cyberpunk is going to be the closest thing to what I like next, and it looks amazing. And because I actually got my hopes up that the company that makes it is quality and will not betray us. Unlike most game companies these days with the microtransactions and I like a good single player experience. And I'll give
there was a game recently that just got so they came out with I forget what fighting game it was. Came out with a game a month into it, then they started releasing ads in the middle of the gameplay so that the people so that the people who were doing the reviews for it wouldn't get it and wouldn't talk about it. So a month out of release, they started putting ads in the middle of gameplay.
Wait, so reviewers wouldn't talk about it?
Right. So
how does that stop a reviewer talk? Because if I was a reviewer, I would very much want to talk about it. You just put an ad in the middle of my game experience.
So the way they did it was, they released it, and so it was out for a month or so. So everyone who reviews the game plays it the first couple of weeks. And then after all the reviews come out, then you release the ads that were meant to be in there in the beginning.
Oh, right. So they held back.
Right.
Is what you're saying. They had a fake product review before the real thing that they wanted to do hit, essentially. That sounds pretty stupid. I don't mind ads if it helps the game survive in a way, but not if it's in the middle of a fight. That would be stupid.
Right. Yeah. Crazy stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I've tried online stuff. I like the constant updates, and you can have some ads in there, and I'll buy a little thing sometimes, but sometimes it's like that's not the way you should finance the entire thing, and I think they've gone overboard. So hopefully there's a backlash, and people just want some decent single-player games for a while, some immersive experiences. I don't mind like team player kind of stuff, but I don't want to have to be sociable just to play a game if I don't want to be. And I don't want to play with a guy named D's Nuts 69 because it kind of destroys. if you're in like in a
no
war
offense
thing,
to D's Nuts, if you're listening.
D's Nuts 69. Because it kind of destroys the immersion a little if you see there's D's Nuts 69 going, there's Fluffy Bunny 55.
Yeah.
Just, imagine if they did that in movies. You can be a cast member for one scene and just suddenly Photoshop a random guy's face on. It's like, wait, who are you? It's like, I paid money to be in this now.
Yeah.
It takes you out of it. So I like an immersive experience.
What might be cooler, I don't know if it would be more or less immersive, but instead of having ads, if they could sort of organically, smoothly fit product placement into the worlds of games you are playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last Kojima game did that. Death Stranding to a degree, I think. That did have a bizarre ad for his TV show on because my wife plays that one. She loves it, or did love it. There's like a bathroom shower thing in there, and there's just a giant ad for what's his name from The Walking Dead's TV show on it, which is very strange and kind of world-breaking, but
funny.
Okay, but it has like monster drinks in there, I think, and a few things. But I don't mind it to a degree. You got to try new things, but there's ways to be respectful and have an experience and a way to kill it.
In the new Last of Us game, there's a Pearl Jam song that plays a large part of the narrative of the story, and there's a part in the game. It's the majority of the game is set in Seattle, so it's sort of fitting that it's a Pearl Jam song that sort of plays a role in the story.
It's
but
funny you should say that.
Yeah,
you know where I live, right?
Yeah, that's I was thinking about that.
Eddie apparently lives. He lives in my neighborhood apparently, and the local the music store we were at one time. I think he walked by me and my wife, was very annoyed that she got asked to move, and not by him, by the person who was trying to treat him like royalty. So don't you fucking. Yeah. So, but I only saw the back of his head. I instinctively knew that's Eddie. No one's treated like that except Eddie, and that's Eddie. He was kind of, yeah. I haven't played it. My wife played it, and she said it was really cool to see. Oh, I recognize this part of Seattle. This is because we used to live downtown, but I have not played that game myself.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I wanted to hear the opinion of someone who lives there and how accurate it was. But there's a part where you can. It's optional. You can go into this music store. And while you're in the music store, you can see a Pearl Jam poster on the wall.
Huh.
So that's a cool thing.
And then there's actually a part of the game where you push your wife out of the way.
Because you think you saw Eddie better.
Someone else told me if you're lucky, you'll just see him shopping at the local supermarket one time. I'm like, man, Pearl Jam is one of my favorite bands too. So, that would be cool.
I like Pearl Jam, but I think Alice in Chains is probably my favorite out of that era.
Hey, they were right up there, man. Them and Stone Temple Pilots and Soundgarden were mine. Those four.
Yeah.
So, and some of them are still alive, but not many.
So I'm sure everyone has watched the movie Singles.
Singles?
Yeah.
Rings a bell, but I don't remember it.
90s, young relationship movie set in Seattle, but a bunch of you'll see Chris Cornell pop up in just outside of an apartment building during a scene, and the movie's full of the characters going to Alice in Chains shows and stuff like that.
See, the sad thing about that is with the tech boom in Seattle, it's really destroying Seattle in a way. in that there's so much development. Well, this is pre-pandemic at least. There was so much development going on that a lot of the old little sound studios that like people like Chris Cornell first recorded at, and like they did the music that became huge. You know, all of that history and stuff that's being demolished, and they're just putting up condos and offices and stuff like that. So that was in the news last year, I think it was. Well, before he died anyway. It was like, oh yeah, we're losing all this history. This is where those albums were recorded, and I was like, no, gone now.
Well, in The Last of Us Part 2, Seattle is properly destroyed. It's a very post-apocalyptic version of it.
You mean it's San Francisco?
There you go.
Everyone I know from San Francisco has moved out because it just got... unless you work for Google or whoever, it's just so expensive and it sucks. But yeah, I would like to see Well, we may be having a post-apocalyptic experience soon anyway. We'll find out.
Well, it feels like we're living in it.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. But I don't know where you guys, but after the and this is not being political, this is just stating what happened, obviously. After the George Floyd, his name is George Floyd, right? I'm not butchering the name. Seattle did have literally right down. I didn't live there at the time. We'd moved like 6 months earlier, but like right around where we were living, there was real riots and vehicles on fire, and a guy had to grab an assault rifle off a. I'm going to call him. I'm not going to say that guy was a protester because you probably shouldn't pick up an assault rifle in a riot situation because that's not going to go well for anyone. But like there was high tension all the way around and fires burning everywhere. So we nearly got to the game. Yeah. For better or worse, I'm not saying. Obviously, protesting is a good thing. Riots probably a little more dangerous for everyone involved, as we're finding out. But I think things are going to get a lot worse before they get a lot better with social tensions. I'm not trying to be political. We're all in a shit show right now of life.
Yeah.
I just want people to be happy and safe.
That's not too much.
We're all in agreement.
And social justice for all, I might add. So.
Yeah.
That's why I love America, man. Your politics is insane.
It's a fucking game show.
Yeah, it is a game show right now. But Australian politics used to be like that. Like we're like your little brother, but we never got as cool as you because you had. I think I'm in safe territory. Even if you're a Republican, you can look back now and say Sarah Palin was a little bit of a mistake because she got so many. She was fun.
We just not even like that. That's not even like when you look back though. You're like, I feel like I would have welcomed her compared to. She's harmless.
Yeah, but during the time of that, I don't think I was living in America at the time of that. But we were just looking on with our mouths open, going, "Is this serious? Is this?" But there was so much comedy gold came from her.
Right.
Now things are a little more serious, unfortunately.
Wasn't that a good time? Wasn't it great when the worst that would come out of it was a really funny sketch?
Yeah.
That's the worst.
But also the sketch could literally, because people, what was her name? They mistake her for the real Sarah Palin or what she said. That's when you know that good comedy hits, is because it says something that you wasn't necessarily really said, but may as well be, because that's what they were getting at, sort of thing. Yeah, I can see Russia from my house. There you go. That's famous now. So, again, I'm not trying to pick a side, although I am obviously on one side much more than the other. But you can guess which side. But, I'm trying not to. I've taken
the alien side.
I refer to myself as a dirty immigrant, just because I'm Australian. I am dirty, but I'm also an immigrant, so I have the immigrant perspective on things. So in some ways, I know how some things can easily be better and improved, especially with healthcare. And on another level, well, you guys are different from me. I can't claim to tell you you're wrong on your own culture, because I'm part of that culture now, and that's American culture is taking other cultures in as well and mixing them up a little. But I'll never understand the whole gun thing that you guys have as a culture, and maybe also the college sports. No one has yet explained to me college sports.
It's funny, isn't it? Like we just have kids that beat the shit out of each other, and we love it.
Oh, that's fine.
And they don't get paid for it. They're not allowed to make money.
Yeah.
But the schools make tons.
Yeah, but I'm called them universities because They
That's
cost so much money to
perspective.
get into and all of this stuff, and then they spend the highest paid public servant in the state, in many states, some states, is a freaking football coach.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, why are you paying for that?
More so than like a surgeon for that university.
You see, I'm a capitalist in that sense, in that that's private industry. That should be, there's a whole sector of that. There's the NFL and the NBA and all of, like, they can pay money and train people and get the good people. Yeah, you can like do it as an amateur thing, and they do. But there's so much money in. When I went to university, I went there to learn. I didn't go there to play sport, and I don't understand why it's a sport thing here. That's just a weird thing.
Money. It's just it brings in so much money.
Billions of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is with that, here's the
money.
thing with that. It's not like it lowers the fees for every other student to go to that. Because if it did, it would be cheaper than most of the rest of the world, which is the opposite.
It's all
That's the
profit.
crazy thing to me.
Yeah, it's and they just started this past year, finally allowing some of the athletes to receive compensation. Because before, if like you ever got, if you ever received any type of help or anything, even if it wasn't monetary, if it was anything like, like giving a family a car to a player's family a car, giving housing to a player's family, like that was illegal. And so now they're finally at least starting to kind of like, change things up, which is it's way long overdue.
And you mean on top of the scholarship they get to go anyway, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Because half the time they don't make the cut, except they make the cut for athletics, right?
Right.
And they on purpose don't give them enough time to properly study anyway, do they? Because it's the gaming the whole system.
No, it's all they're an employee really, but you don't get paid. You're almost like a volunteer. And the thing is, your scholarship, technically, quote unquote, your scholarship is your payment. The ability to get a free education, but you're not even really being educated. To be honest, you're being forced to play. So
yeah, that's what I mean. It's like I see so many weird. See, we don't have that in Australia. Well, I mean, we have teams and things, but they're very more amateur, and they're not like our culture of like, oh, well, we'll spend so much money on this. It's like, no, you have a hockey team and. Yeah, you'll go and compete occasionally, but we don't pay for that. It's all amateur.
That's how it is here in Canada too. We don't have the big college sports phenomenon.
Yeah,
well,
I think
you're either the Australia of the North, or we are the Canada of the South, my friend. We both have
either one.
Queen. I'm a Republican, and I don't mean an American Republican. I mean I don't like the Queen. I want the Queen gone. You guys have the Queen too.
Well. To a degree, yeah, in that we're a member of the Commonwealth still.
Well, in a sense that she could sack your entire government, right? Or can she not sack your government?
No, I don't think she has any particular power. We just recognize her as a nice lady with a pretty hat.
Yeah.
But do you have? Forgive me for this quick segue. Do you have a governor general?
I believe we have something like that.
You have like
we
Queen's representative in Canada.
We have. I'm not sure if we still have that.
That would make you a republic if you didn't. Like your head of state. Who is your head of state?
As well, like we have our prime minister.
That is not the head of state, my friend.
Yeah, I don't know what the head of state is.
We're getting a lot of education on this episode.
Well, usually it's not.
Or
in a
revealing
republic,
lack
it's
of
usually a president. But in a Commonwealth country, in a parliamentary, what do you call it? Democracy. But we're a constitutional monarchy sort of thing with a parliament. So Australia has a governor general, and I'm sure Canada kind of has. I don't want to look it up, but you guys have something similar, and she is the Queen's representative. And say the Queen has a bad day, or the whoever the governor general is, or the equivalent. Has a bad day, they can fire the whole government and call a new election. And I'm a Republican in a sense of I want a republic for Australia because I don't like that.
Yeah. To answer your question about to answer your question about the gun thing for us, I've always kind of like because I'm not like as an American, I've never really cared about. Having a gun one way or the other. I've gone to gun ranges and stuff, but really it's all about like if you look back, it's just ingrained in the culture and history of our country. That
hunting's big here. I know that.
Yeah, but I think just in general, like violence in general is such a it's rewarded and it's revered, because through violence and force we kind of get where we are and we get what we want. And it's always been through our history, it's been how we get by through violence. And so you look at our sports are extremely violent. The most popular sports that we have, especially like the combat sports, the one-on-one, like the UFC and the boxing, like the ones that bring in the most money. Those are the most violent sports that we have, and it's the most popular. And so it's kind of like, it's sadly in our DNA, and it's perpetuated by, I don't know about you guys in Australia, and I don't know about Canada, but in the U.S., this is such a fucking nerd rant. In the U.S., we only allow 6 weeks of paid leave for a mother who's given birth. Anything after that, you got to figure out how to do it with your health insurance or with your work. But 6 weeks, you give birth to a kid and you can only take care of him at home for 6 weeks. And there's fucking multiple studies over generations that say that from the age of 0 to 4, that's the most important time for a child to bond and learn about, the world and to kind of create their sense of self and to create the sense of basically sense of security. And if you don't have a bond with a parent at that time from 0 to 4, your whole sense of the world is now influenced by however you are raised at that time. So we have 6 weeks where you can bond with a child, and who knows what happens after that, where you're sending your kid. So, we have, number one, a society that is built upon violence and that rewards violence. And then number two, you got a society who isn't staying home and raising their kids correctly. And so you kind of combine that with a lot of other shit that we got going on. And that's how you get us. So it's complicated, and it's going to take a lot to fix us. I know, because a lot of people say like, oh, you just got to take the guns away, and I would love.
No one will ever take the guns away. It's in the Constitution.
Even if they did, like, let's just say we lived in a world where they did take all of our guns away. We're so fucking violent as a people that we would find a way to kill each other. So.
With spoons if you had to.
I think as a dirty foreigner, I will say, I don't know if this is the same in Canada, but you tell me. But when I first learned you could go into a department store like Walmart, what we have Target in Australia, or we did, I think. It's like you can buy clothes, you buy everything except fresh food, so whatever you call that store. But it's not a fancy department store like Nordstrom or something. But you can go into them and buy guns and ammo. That just blew my mind. It's like, wait, I would pop into the Walmart and buy 1,000 rounds.
I think here you can buy guns. I don't know if you can buy ammo in all of them.
Yeah, guns are not illegal in Australia. It's just you have to have a really good reason to have one, and there are plenty of really good reasons to have one. And I know it's in the Constitution in America, so you'll never truly get rid of it. Not that I actually want that, because people should have a right to certain things in certain situations. But I know there were certain court cases in the Supreme Court, at least from the 80s onwards, sort of thing, that slowly said everyone should have certain rights to certain things, which really opened the floodgates for a lot of stuff. But it's very complicated. I have friends with firearms. I live in a state where they have signs at the bar saying, "Please leave your firearm outside of this area of the bar," because drinking and shooting at the same time probably bad. But I don't know, man. And I don't pretend to preach a lot of stuff, except that I do dislike the NRA because this is my one real political thing. The NRA are evil on one count alone. When I was in my college years in Australia, we had at the time the biggest gun massacre in I guess in history, in the Western world at least, in Port Arthur. And so, I was already trying to do American stuff, so I obviously I read the news, and the NRA came out and said all these lies about Australia, about how we reacted to dealing with the problem of this crazy guy. He had issues getting a gun and doing what he did, because he shouldn't have been able to do that. And so we even had a conservative government at the time to do this whole thing, which actually helped, and we haven't had a gun massacre since, certainly not on that level. We've had small incidents. But they made up all these lies. I'm like, that's how I know you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
because they're interested in their agenda more than a solution. So
they're so powerful here that we can't do any longitudinal studies on gun violence in our country because of their influence over our legislation. So we can't figure out like any correlations between gun violence and mental health, gun violence and whatever, because the NRA literally is so powerful. They don't allow it through our laws. It's fucking insane.
Well, not through your laws. I would say more through your politicians.
There you go. Through those who influence the laws. Yeah.
Yeah. The things that happen in America would be considered complete bribery in Australia, but they're considered normal practice in America.